Hello, and welcome again to Lessons Learned. Tonight, I want to take a little bit of a different approach, and I want to talk to you tonight. Yes, I'm in front of the camera. Tonight, I want to talk about spiritual bitterness. Now, if the term spiritual bitterness has you a little confused, we're talking about spiritual disappointment, spiritual despondency, just feeling let down and deserted by God. Spiritual bitterness is really low-key anger at God. Now, before you quickly dismiss this dangerous spiritual condition, allow me to identify some of the circumstances that can place people at risk for spiritual bitterness. Number one, tragic, devastating events. I'm talking about deaths, financial losses, health issues, miscarriages, divorce. Basically anything that would prompt one to ask either, why God? Or why me? Think of Naomi in Ruth chapter 1. Number two, people with a strong faith or a strong personal relationship with God. These people are at risk for events that can predispose them to spiritual bitterness. When we think about Job and how he was essentially selected by God for trial and test, and while it appears in the chapter that Job remained faithful to God, he had to be reminded of God's sovereignty. And from this, we can deduce that Job may have also felt wronged by God at some point. Number three, physical exhaustion. Remember Elijah after the miraculous display of God's power? He ran for his life to the brook and he wanted to die after being threatened by Jezebel. In answer to his despair, God reminded him that there were many who did not yet bow the knee to Baal. As you can see, spiritual bitterness can happen to the best of us. So how does one know if they are spiritually bitter? Well, some of the symptoms of spiritual bitterness that manifest, they happen when, number one, you can't pray, or you can't read the Bible. You just feel forgotten by God. You're in despair. If you're inactive in ministry, you're not witnessing. And if you're just on rote mode, you're just going through the motions at church, going through the motions in your relationship with God. If any of these symptoms describe you and you have also experienced any of the events that we described earlier, you just might be spiritually bitter. Now, I know very well of what I speak because God revealed to me that I was bitter. After significant financial loss impacted my family over 8 years ago, while we have had many miracles and blessings that have come since that time, we await complete restoration. And we believe God has promised that to us. Now, during the 8 years, let me tell you, I have had some words with God. I've had periods of despondency, deep spiritual questioning. I felt like God broke my heart. I even blogged about it. What I've come to accept now is that there is divine purpose for my pain. And each day I'm growing into that purpose more and more. Praise be to God. Praise be to God. So in our next YouTube, we'll explore how I overcame the bitterness. And, bitterness can be like an addiction. With any devastating event, I recognize that I am at high risk to spiritually down spiral. So in segment 3 of this YouTube, I will also discuss tips that I use to prevent bitterness in my life from recurring. I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope that this share has blessed you in some way. Have a great day, and remember to bloom where you're planted. God bless.